And
And
you know, I got something. I was going to sing.
oh,
I was going,
okay.
the
Yeah, yeah,
Indiana rock,
yeah,
but we didn't get any comments on it,
yeah,
good or bad.
yeah,
So I think that's maybe a positive that we can do it again sometime.
yeah.
But this time, since this episode's about radio, um, I found something I want to kick the show off with that I think's fitting, and I hope everybody out there agrees. We'll just say hello at the moment.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello, and
Letterman, Richard Luger, Larry Bird, Johnny Cougar, Cowboy Bob, and Janie Slick, Leonard Bob, Blamey Jane, Paulie Dan, Quail, Mike Tyson in jail, Mike Ahern, Debbie Knox, Bob and Tom, you guys rock, Billy Brooks, Dick the Bruiser, Jeff George, what a loser, Damon Bailey, Sammy Terry, Bobby Plump, Danson, Harry, Tony George, Happy Hour, Carnegie, in the Tower, Marvin Johnson, Vince Gainey, Babyface, Calvert Cheney, Big Dog, Reggie Miller, Jeff Gordon, Billy Keller, Little Al, backing down, Mario is slowing down. Indiana, Lord, I love it. Everybody knows Indiana rocks. Peyton Manning, Edwin James, Final Four, Penn and Games, Duke DeMago, Henry Lee, world's largest Christmas tree, Rick Mears, Speedway, Indy News went away, Naptown, Weir Cook, Hoosier Dome, Hunter Hook, Mayor Steve, Eli Lilly, Little Five, Piccadilly Steve, Alfred Roger Brown, Circle Center, Downtown, Boom, Baby Field House, George McGinnis, Barry Krause, Razor Shine, James Dean, White Castle, Dairy Queen, Razzmatazz, Red Key, Union Station, Benny Tree, Vogue, and the patio, Elvis did his last show. Indiana, Lord, I love it. Everybody knows Indiana rocks. Roadmaster, Buzzy Jones, Faith Band, Rising Cones, Tony Stewart, Ron Stark, Victory Field, Hoosier Park, Coliseum, MSA, Pacers win the ABA, Gene Caney, Christy Lee, Slippery Noodle, IRP, Freddie Lewis, Evan by IUPUI, Card Dave, Pace, Car, Nouveau, Indy Star, Burger Chef, TP, win the Hoosier Lottery, Bob, Gregory, Don, Hine, Bob and Tom, take a fine, F1 at the track, Chick left and came back, Beatles at the State Fair, Bobby Knight threw a chair. Indiana, Lord, I love it. Everybody knows Indiana rocks. Children's Museum, Athenaeum, Uncle Harlow and Chuck Marlowe, IRL, NASCAR, NHRA, Funny Car, Bob and Jimmy Irsay, Dopey Gums, RCA, Don's Guns, Ducky Love, High Step, Unica, NCAA, Lion Dyke, AJ Dickerson, The Big O, Riverboat Casino, Butler, IU, Ball State, Purdue, Mackey, Assembly Hall, Big Ten, Basketball, Rick, Mount Fort Bend, Bob and Tom gets it again. Indiana, Lord, I love it. Everybody knows Indiana rocks. Indiana, Lord, I love it. Everybody knows Indiana rocks. Everybody knows Indiana rocks. Everybody knows United rocks.
there we go.
All right.
I thought that was a fitting way to start a show about radio.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. So, hello everybody out there. Thank you for watching. And this episode is radio. How important, significant, memory inspiring
Yeah.
radio was in its heyday. Nowadays, radio's kind of, Sirius XM, talk radio. It's not as it was in the time we're talking about.
No.
You know,
No, it was great back then.
60s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah, you got everything. The top 40. It could have everywhere from Led Zeppelin to, ABBA. Everything in between.
Yeah,
It was great.
yeah,
Anybody that had in the top 40, they were playing it.
right.
Yeah.
Certain stations, top 40 stations, because that's when it kind of, in that era, is when it kind of started fragmenting into different genres, if you will. One station in town played top 40.
Yeah.
One station in town played classic rock. The other station played alternative,
country.
rhythm and blues, soul, funk.
Yeah.
You know, that was. We'll get to those stations. Hello, it's Lori Arnold from Texas.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, Lori. Stay safe down there. A lot of crazy people in Texas.
Yeah.
A lot of good musicians came from Texas.
Oh, yeah,
You know, you got to give credit where credit's due in that.
Yeah, Johnny and Edgar Winter.
Both the Winter Boys. Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah.
I'm pretty one of
ZZ Top.
yeah, ZZ Top, and we can't forget old brother Willie getting soaking wet. Anyway, thank you for watching, Lori Arnold, and commenting. We appreciate that. We appreciate everybody watching. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. You want to help support the channel? Do it through Cash App's the best way. $AMERICANDUFUS. You can email me at the same AMERICANDUFUS at gmail.com. And Melvis, you can get a hold of him through Facebook primarily.
Yep.
Mel Cupp, CUPP.
Yep.
Mel, we see you, PP.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, like you never heard that one.
I never heard.
You never heard that one before. So we're going to talk about radio. And I asked on Facebook last night, I said, you know, we're going to talk about radio tomorrow night. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think radio? You know, disc jockey, station, whatever. And my sister was one of the responders. And a lot of people DM'd me, but she was, you know, talking about somebody I'd never heard of, ever heard of, but it was her earliest memory. And it's actually my sister and brother-in-law's wedding anniversary. I think it's their, I don't know, 60th or I don't know. It's up there.
Oh, that's good.
You know. Yes. Congratulations if y'all happen to be watching.
Yeah.
And she said her first memory, one of her first memories associated with radio was that my older brother and sisters on Thanksgiving would go out to the car and turn the radio on and listen to Easy Gwen. And it wasn't easy, but I found a picture of Easy Gwen from WIBC.
All right.
Oh
man, that brings back
WIBC. Yeah, that we're gonna get into that. But that was one of her first memories. Another Dave McCorkle and
he from Knightstown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Dave McCorkle that I played ball with. Like, you know, we talked about Sunset Park that day and about the diamond down and how you went down the hill when the roller skating rink was.
Yeah.
Okay. He hit the ball like not only out of the diamond park area, but out of the park area over 40 and into the other field. You know, he was like a phenomenal.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of his first memories of radio was sports related, listening to the Cleveland Indians baseball team.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And
cool.
And radio has played a significant part of a lot of people's lives.
Oh yeah, no TV back.
Well,
older time.
Well, yeah, back. I mean, I remember the first time that I remember our first color television, and it was in 1968. We got it from I think it was Myers. Is that what it was in Newcastle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Myers.
Yeah.
MYERS.
MYERS set right there in front of used to be Eaton's Market, I think, where the burger chef was right there off of Spiceland Pike. Wasn't that Myers? What was it?
Yeah. Or Arlen's.
No, Arlen's was on down.
Yeah. Okay.
Arlen's was on down, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next to Becker's.
Down there by Becker's.
Becker Brothers.
Becker Brothers. Yeah. Anyway, for those of you that aren't from around where we're from, you have no idea what we're talking about. Apologies, but and I'd say Google it, but there's no, we didn't have social media back then, so thankfully, a lot of the things that we did and were accused of, there is no
proof.
There's no proof, no evidence.
There wasn't. Everybody didn't have a camera on them like they do now, and there's cameras everywhere you look.
Cameras everywhere now, and
Big Brother following you everywhere.
And your phone's following you, and and you're following somebody else on the phone, and your phone's following you, and it's also following other people that you're not aware of what your phone's. Anyway, that's why it was a good time back then with radio.
Yeah.
Are you going to use your radio voice tonight?
Well, of course.
There we go.
I do that.
We've got to use our radio voices tonight. I was actually on the radio, but this is not about me. This is about radio. And Mel, you didn't listen to radio a lot.
No, just when I was driving or,
Well, you were a professional musician at what, 15?
Yeah.
So you're basically listening to vinyl, learning songs or learning techniques, or it's not like.
Yeah, we were writing songs too. We even got airplay,
which is where I was leading with this. You got airplay through the Indianapolis stations, and the fact that the disc jockeys dug you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't get on the air.
Yeah. Mike Griffin was our manager.
Mike Griffin from WNAP.
Michael T. John Griffin.
Michael T. John Griffin. Yeah.
God rest his soul. But after midnight, they'd play the greatest music I ever heard. Nobody ever played that stuff on the radio, but WNAP did.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
And while we're talking about, you also let's get Buster Bodine. Let's get him out there as well from WNAP while we're on that little topic before we really get into the radio thing. You had a story about Buster.
Yeah. We played at the Rivoli Theater, and it was like a little showcase of local bands that made records. And it was us, Primeval, and Stonewall, Jason Stonewall from Why on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they was making a record 700 West the same time we was. And they had a couple other, I think Ezekiel Longspur played. But anyway, it was our turn to play. So we was up there, and Buster was the one that was announcing everything. He was the MC. So he turns around and says, okay, what's the name of the band? Primeval. Okay. Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that last show was pretty good, wasn't it? Yeah. Everybody applauds and everything. And he said, well, we got some more guys up here. This is what's his name again? Primeval. Yeah. And he said a few other things, and then he said, ladies and gentlemen, what was it again? Oh my God, dude.
Were you pissed?
A little bit. Man, asked 3 times within like 5 seconds. But it was fun. We had a blast.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And, did you win, or was there a prize?
It wasn't a contest.
It wasn't.
No.
Well, then you won.
Yeah, we won.
You were the best band there.
Yeah.
That's
it.
That's the thing, because there's no social media and there's no proof otherwise.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
Yeah, I was talking to Jimmy Page the other day.
What'd Jimmy say?
you know, the same
What he
old
could,
thing.
he won't come on.
No, he didn't want to do it. He's afraid we'll use something against him.
Like what? What do we? I mean, I'm a Robert Plant fan. Am I going to use that against him? I'm a John Paul Jones fan. Am I going to? I might use those things.
No, those guys are all
Oh yeah, yeah.
legends.
Yes, of course we're totally joking here.
Oh yeah.
But what we're talking about, upcoming future guests, and Jimmy Page obviously is not going to be one of them. We reached out, talked with the legendary, the one and only Asher Ben Rubin, Adam Smasher, and Smash is going to come on in the future. He couldn't get with us tonight. The same thing's true with Carl Rock and Roll Russo.
Yeah.
Carl's going to come on, and we're going to do an episode with him as well in the future. And we got Alan Kay.
Yeah.
Coming up next Monday night, and Alan's a great tie-in. You know, we've kind of connected the dots on every episode. There's kind of something that, you know.
Yep.
And Alan Kay's a former disc jockey, just not notable here in Indiana, but he was in Ohio and in Texas, and we'll talk about that. He's a stand-up comedian. He's the front man for Alan Kay and Tricycle at the moment in the Indianapolis, and
Used to be Alan Kay in the Tunes.
Used to be Alan Kay and the Tunes, but the Tunes are a separate unit now.
Yeah.
Well worth going and seeing, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then Alan Kay and Tricycle, and we haven't seen them, but we know the players in the band, and
we know Alan.
And we know Alan. So yeah, if you get a chance,
Joe Cocker.
And that's where I was getting. One of the things he's known for is his Joe Cocker tribute.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to him about that. We'll talk to him about touring with various bands as a stand-up comic, and we'll just, that's next Monday night at 9. So hopefully you join us then. Right now, we're going to talk radio in Indiana. And if you're not from Indiana, if you that's your phone.
Yeah.
If you don't know Indiana, I'm going to pop a map up here real quick. Illinois, as it says right there, Illinois. Ohio right over here, and Indiana. And South Bend, which of course is at the very north of the state.
Yeah. Right, very tip.
And North Vernon is at the very south end of the state.
Yeah.
So we messed up on those directional names anyway. But South Bend, Fort Wayne, Lafayette, Terre Haute, Muncie, Indianapolis, Bloomington, and then Cincinnati, Chicago, and pop out one more for Louisville, because that'll give you kind of an idea what we're going to be talking about here geographically. Starting up at the top with South Bend. South Bend Station, WSBT. All right. It was the first station in the state.
Ooh.
In 1922. Now, there's a controversy. A controversy.
Oh.
That's how they say it in Britain.
Oh.
A controversy.
Say again.
Controversy. A controversy.
Oh, okay.
Controversy.
Controversy.
Because WBAA in Lafayette also started in 1922.
Ooh, so
all right.
At the same time. Yeah.
At the same time, but there's like debate on, and we're not trying to stir up controversy. Purdue is the home of WBAA, so it's the way it's kind of was explained to me was South Bend is the first commercial station in the state, but WBAA was probably the first station to actually go on the air, but it is a educational nonprofit,
Okay.
as you know, a
Yeah.
lot of Purdue companies and stuff are allegedly. All right. And we had Fort Wayne up there in the northeast part of the state, and that was WOWO Fort Wayne. Remember that? Whoa.
Yeah.
1200 WOWO Fort Wayne. And then we talked about South Bend Lafayette. Kokomo had WZ Whiz.
Whiz.
Terre Haute had Weibo
Weibo.
Weibo
Oh, Weibo.
WBOW.
Oh.
Yeah, in Terre Haute WBOW.
Weibo.
Bow.
Yeah.
Bow. Bloomington WQAX. The Quacks. Evansville had WJPS, was the first station and one of the biggest stations down there. And we're talking about the time period where it's hotter and it's hot out here where we are, and in most of the United States it's hot. And on days like this, you would look for like Lakewood or Campers Haven or the swimming pool in Bakers Park in Newcastle or the pool in Knightstown or the water bowl in Muncie, or you know, and every time you went to those places, there were always transistor radios out. You know, on the beach, as it was close to the beach as we got. You know, no
just lakes,
but with sand and dirty sand around it, but still, it was our beaches. And the radio was key to that. You know, radio was,
couldn't have fun without a radio.
Radio was everywhere. This is the time period we're talking about. I mentioned the Water Bowl, Muncie, Indiana. Stations up in Muncie were WLBC and WBTS or WSBT, Ball State Station, and WERK, the Men at Work. Bill Shirk and the Men at Work. Do you remember that?
Yeah, Bill Shirk.
I think it was 99 AM. WERK.
It was out by Muncie.
Yeah. And I worked at the station. They had to close down like at 6 or 7 o'clock. And I worked at the station on a Sunday, on Sundays for like a month, replacing somebody that was out. I was never on the air because all it was playing Casey Kasem's Top 40, you know, and then
all you had to do is make sure that was playing.
All I had to do is make sure that was playing and play the local commercials when the local commercial slot came in, you know, and that's all I got to do, was the way I was looking at it, you know, instead of had to do, but you know, sit there and make sure everything's working. And I did the same thing at WCTW out in Newcastle when I was in high school. WCTW Newcastle. 1550 AM. All right. So that was Muncie. Before we get to Indianapolis, because that's going to be the main part of this, because the stations impacted such a wide area. We got to mention the Louisville, Cincinnati, and Chicago, because those stations impacted as well. Back in our episode on Bull Island, the Erie Canal Soda Pop Festival. WLS played a big part in spreading the word about that Chicago station with 50,000 watts. And in Louisville, it was WAKY, Wacky. And in Cincinnati, it was and still is WLW. And if you listen to the Cincinnati Reds, every Reds game's on WLW 700 WLW Cincinnati. So those stations surrounding up in Chicago. WLS had Larry Lujak,
Yeah, I remember
old
that.
Uncle Larry.
Uncle Larry.
Yeah, and what was it? What was it? Super Chicken or
Super chicken.
Super Chicken or something like that. Who you gonna call? Call for Super Chicken. Yeah.
All for super chicken.
There we go. There you go. Yes. I think that was it. So that brings us Evansville, the mighty WORZ Rosie Radio. Thank you, Vinyl Feel. Appreciate that. Evansville. I like that. WRZ Rosie Radio.
Rosie Radio.
Rosie Radio.
Cool.
All right, that kind of takes us to Indianapolis. And
Before the FM.
before the FM, there was a major AM battle
Yeah.
in Indianapolis
Yep.
between WIBC, who we've already mentioned,
WIFE.
WIFE.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wife.
the wife, and WIRE.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
Okay. And again, this is all before FM kind of took off and clicked off. WIFE, they were the good guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
The good guys at WIFE.
Yeah. And the bad guys at W. Yeah.
Yeah. And Reb Porter
Oh,
was. Let's see our deep voice contest. Hello, Reb.
Hey, could you fill up my tit mug with a light beer from Miller, please?
Okay. Among not a lot of things, you haven't done tons of. Yeah, I've done a whole bunch of different stuff. One of the things Mel did though, while looking for gigs and whatever, was he was a bartender and also a chef. But you were the bartender at the Raz, or not at the Raz, but at the Brass Menagerie. We've got an episode east side of Indy, and we've got to do the west and south and north. People have been clamoring about that. Anyway, when you were bartending at the Brass Menagerie, I was disc jockeying at the Brass Menagerie in this time period. We only worked together for relatively short time. You were there forever. And then I get there, and shortly after I get there, you left, and I was there until the place turned into
Something
the
else.
rib joint.
Yeah.
Trivia night.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Anyway, during that time period, we had a lot of the people from Q95.
Yes.
And let's just start with Bob and Tom, because Bob and Tom are known all over the country and probably a lot of the world.
Oh, yeah.
with
Sure.
satellite radio. We're talking 30 years ago, in 1984, 85.
Oh, it's 40 years ago.
Is it 40 years ago? I
Yeah.
guess it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shit. Okay, we're talking 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And they would come into the they came into the Raz when I worked at the Raz. They came into Peppermint Twist when I opened Peppermint Twist. They came into the Brass when we were both there. How would you describe Bob and Tom's on location?
Yeah. Well, it didn't really set too well with me. I was tending bar, but all I heard was they said, "Okay, is there anybody out in the crowd that has a Kentucky driver's license?" And so, yeah, some guy, and they said, "Come on up here." And they looked at his line, and then they just humiliated the guy for about the next 2 or 3 hours.
Every time there's a break, they're pointing at the guy and making a comment about it. Okay. Well, all this is going on. I'm not the, secondary entertainer at the bar anymore. I'm now the engineer for Bob and Tom to make sure they sound good,
Yeah.
make sure they don't feedback when they go where they're not supposed to. Anyway, I much more enjoy. I mean, they were good. You know,
Yeah,
they
were
drew
funny.
people.
Yeah,
But
but it was the same thing.
in every bar,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't know what they do now. I haven't seen either one of them in a couple of decades.
Yeah.
Um, But every time War and Peace came, every time War and Peace came to any of those places,
it was hilarious.
it was, oh my gosh, the guy's a comedic genius.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
we're talking about Mark Patrick, and he played a character, War and Peace, and dressed up in a pink tutu.
Yeah.
And he played other characters too, but War and Peace sticks out.
Oh yeah.
You know,
that was awesome.
and hilarious. Also, we had Jay Baker in,
Yeah.
and Jay was one of those naturally funny guys.
Yeah. He had that voice too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and Ace Cosby,
Yeah.
and a lot of people were shocked to find out Ace Cosby was in the black community playing rock and roll on Q95.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but what a great dude.
It's the same way with Roger Holloway.
Yeah,
He's a white drummer
yeah,
playing, being a DJ in WTLC.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, he was a good drummer.
And for those that don't know, WTLC is the cultural station in the number one cultural station in the city of Indianapolis, where you go to find your latest grooves. You know, and I grew up. Music was incredibly important to me.
Me too.
And I mentioned my sister and their anniversary, and that, you know, she asked about Early Gwen from WIBC. I couldn't believe I found it. But she got me, I want to show this. She got me a transistor radio. Unable to access screen sharing. Okay. Let me try that again. Oh, I know why. I'm pretty sure I know why. Okay, there we go. Because it's on eBay for sale. It was like this. And she got it for me when I was, I don't know, 6 or 7 on my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And on this side over here, it had the on and off and volume, and then you tuned it this way and had an earplug with it. And I used to go to sleep. I used to have that nobody knew, but, or at least I didn't think they did. But I had that earplug in and listen to that little transistor radio at night and go to sleep. And with AM signals travel farther. FM signals are clearer, but don't travel as far.
Mm.
And so depending on the atmospherics, you know, I can pick up Philadelphia or Cleveland or Detroit, you know, or Chicago or Texas. 50,000 watt stations you could pick up fairly easy. Chicago and Texas.
We used to get a radio free, you know, Cuba and everything on Larry's amp.
On Larry's amp.
Yeah, he had a Casino 400, had the 810s.
Yeah.
It was like a refrigerator.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was solid state. He'd go plug it in, all of a sudden.
It turned into a receiver.
Yeah. Yeah, we could hear people speaking in different languages and all kinds of stuff. It's like, There ain't nothing you can do about it except wait for them to get done with whatever the hell they're.
Wait for the conversation to end, and then we'll start our set.
Yeah. Hey, come on.
Larry, can you turn that down until they're done talking?
Yeah.
So we mentioned WIBC, WIFE. We've talked about WFBQ quite a bit.
Yeah.
Now let's go to the Wrath of the Buzzard. 93 WNAP. That was my station. Was WNAP.
That was my favorite one that when I listened, I always listened to them.
Yeah, I mean, initially, because there was like this, WNAP, WFBQ, who you listen,
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about the significance of radio. You mentioned when you're driving,
Yeah.
the first thing you do when you get in the car back then was you would tune the radio.
Yeah. Find the radio station.
And once you found the radio station, you generally didn't get off of it because you may not be able to tune it back in, and then you get
so you fade in and out.
Right.
Yeah.
So you became loyal to certain stations. I feel, that's kind of how it worked. And I listened to WNAP for a long time, and if everything was as it was back then, I'd still be listening to both NAP and FBQ.
Yeah.
But they're not, it's not the same, and we can't expect it to be.
Yeah.
And I don't listen to radio much at all anymore.
Yeah.
I don't get my music from radio. I get my music from the internet.
Yeah. I hear you. Yep. I use you.
But
there's a lot of great bands on there that nobody's ever heard of.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of little kids that are just smoking.
Yeah. 7-year-old kids playing Van Halen stuff.
You know what's coming? And this is for real. Well, I assume it's for real. I heard it on the internet. Beatles 2.0.
Oh, yeah.
Zach Starkey.
Oh, is he going to play with
Sean Lennon and
Julian?
McCartney's kid.
Oh, James.
The three of them are starting a band.
Cool. I'd like to see that.
I'm interested in at least hearing what they do.
Well, yeah.
You would think that there would be some.
Julian's not a part of it.
Well,
yeah.
He was a part of the originals.
Yeah.
He grew up with the original thing. He knows all the,
Yeah.
the stuff that people think kids don't remember, that kids really do remember.
Yeah.
He went through all that. So I'm not surprised he's not in it.
Yeah.
But I am interested to hear what, they do.
Starkey just got canned by the Who.
Right.
Ringo wasn't happy.
I bet not.
He said that little, I forget what he called him, but it was the guy that tries to lead the band.
Lead the Who?
Yeah, but he didn't say
It's not
a name.
Pete. It's not Pete Townsend or Roger Waters. It's Roger Daltrey. It's the manager guy is who fired him.
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know. They just told him they didn't need his services anymore. And he said, well, it needs somebody that knows how to run the band because he's been playing drums with them for 20 years.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
They're
just up and firing.
But one of the things we've found by doing this show is, everybody thinks all bands get along and not even close. Not even close to it.
When
somebody's trying to get a hold of you, Melvis.
I know.
All right, let's go to WNAP. The Wrath. Oh, wait a minute. Before we mentioned Red Porter.
Yeah.
And we've got a Red Porter story.
Yeah.
Part of, I don't know if you can see it or not, but this is the Indianapolis 500 radio network. Because I was in radio, I get to work the track, and anybody around here knows the track knows I'm talking about Indianapolis Motor Speedway, home of the Indianapolis 500. The rest of you, when I say the track, that's what I mean. And I was fortunate enough to have an extra pass and took Mel out there with me. And we did we go up in the media center? We went up in the broadcast. We went up in the tower, but I don't think we went in the media center, did we? No. We went up into the tower, and we were at the upper level of the tower, and the door opened, and Reb Porter was standing there. And I said, Reb, I want you to meet my friend Mel Cupp. Take it from here.
Oh, I just had my right shoulder repaired for my rotator cuff got torn completely out. I was recovering, and I said, "Hey, nice to meet you." And he said, "Hey, nice to meet you." Bam, and hit me right on it. I about passed out. I'm like, oh, nice to meet you, sir. But that wasn't Red. That was Don Fisher.
It was Don Fisher, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was Don Fisher.
Nice to meet you, Mel. Whack.
Nice to meet you there, Mel. Okay. The Wrath of the Buzzard, WNAP, Buster Bodine, who couldn't rest in peace.
Yeah.
Funny guy.
Oh yeah.
He helped grow rock in Indiana.
Yeah.
You know, just like all the people we're talking about here.
Yeah, they were all personalities.
Absolutely. From, you know, we mentioned Smash, we mentioned Carl Rock and Roll Russo. All the people we've mentioned here helped grow rock in Indiana.
Yeah.
You know, Mike Griffin, Chris Connor.
Yep, the program director.
Dave Dugan.
Yeah. Dave Dugan.
Fast Freddy Fever.
Wow. That takes you back.
Doesn't that jump you back?
Yeah.
Bruce Munson
Yeah.
and Tom Cochran, morning show.
Oh yeah, Tom Cochran.
Yeah, Tom Cochran went on to be like the news director at Channel 13
Yeah.
TV, I think.
And also the guy that sang Lunatic Fringe and all that was Tom Cochran.
That was
Not
a
the
different,
same-
different Tom
not the
Cochran.
Same one.
Yeah.
Lunatic Fringe.
Are you in love with each other? No, not at all. No. Chris Griffin from South Park. Mel's a South Park fan. Do you know Chris Griffin? Isn't
No,
Griff-
I South Park got past me.
you didn't?
I didn't really watch that. I watched The Simpsons and Family Guy and American Dad.
Okay. All right. I thought you were a
South Park.
South Park
Oh,
guy.
I know Kenny always got killed in every episode. But
Did we forget anybody? If we did, we're going to hear about it, I'm sure. Kiss FM, kind of
Smash.
Smash left and went to Kiss.
Yeah.
That was like a major thing. Christy Lee, almost forgot to mention Christy Lee.
Yeah.
And Bob and Tom, Tom
Yeah.
is still on every morning as far as I know,
Yeah.
and still doing the Bob and Tom show, syndicated nationally. And Christy is news director there still, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
But
Chick McGee.
Chick McGee, everybody that we kind of,
Dean Metcalf.
is he still there?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I really don't listen to that station. I like the Knightstown station.
Okay. Promote that, because that's a current station. People can probably find it on the internet.
Yeah.
What is it?
WKPW. I think.
WKPW.
Yeah. Knightstown, Indiana.
Knightstown,
It's
with a K.
Knightstown High School,
With-
actually.
Knightstown High School radio station. And I don't know what the reach is, but it's probably 20-mile radius anyway,
Oh,
because
yeah.
because we get it out here
I pick it up
real easily.
in the east side of Indianapolis. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they play a lot of cool stuff.
And you were talking about you were talking about listening to WNAP after midnight when they'd get into the deep album cuts.
Yeah, they really get into some deep stuff. It was awesome. Set out and used to camp out at Campton's house and sit out there and listen to the radio. That was the best time to listen. After midnight, you heard all kinds of weird stuff. Toe Fat, that was one of the bands. I think Noel Redding played with them before The Experience with Jimi Hendrix. He played guitar with them.
The bass player with Hendrix played guitar in a band called Toe Fat.
Yeah.
I did that. I learned something today.
Hey.
Thank you, Melvis. Always appreciate that. All right. I think we pretty much hit everything. Next, we're going to kind of continue the radio theme next week with Alan Kay coming on, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And he'll be on with us live at 9:00. He may have to have him call in on the phone if we can't get a computer situation, a video link established. But we're going to have him on here next Monday at 9. And 60 years of entertainment, probably, Alan Kay.
Oh yeah. All the comedy and stuff he did before he
got into the music.
Yeah.
So,
and boy, if you miss Joe Cocker, check him out because you can't tell them apart.
he sounds so much like Joe Cocker.
He does.
And the guys backing him up sounded like the Grease Band.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they were all tight and solid.
Yep.
And that, play solid. That's always the best advice. All right, there we go. Episode 14, radio in the books for Indiana Rocks. Thank you all for watching. Greatly appreciate it. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the share. If you'd like to help support the channel, do so through Cash App, $ American Doofus, AMERICANDUFUS. You want to email, it's the same thing, AMERICANDUFUS@gmail.com. Hit Mel up on Facebook. Mel Cup. That's Mel Cup. I'm Barry Welsh. It's a dark world.
Be a light.
See you next time.
On Indiana Rocks. Woo!
Ooh.